On the night when their 6-year marriage was supposed to be celebrated, a millionaire demanded a divorce, declaring the end of the farce that bound them together. Months later, remorseful, he stumbled upon a shocking discovery. If you enjoy stories like this, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts about the story. Your participation is essential. To the Plot Reverso channel, there was nothing more desolate than being alone at a vast marble table, in front of a pile of leftovers, while her husband celebrated with his mistress. On their 6th wedding anniversary, Marina's heart wept, as cold as the food before her. She had believed that, at least on that special day, he would remember his duty, but that fragile hope vanished when she received the photos from the private detective. He and the mistress, dining by candlelight, the woman in his arms, a devoted smile on her face. In 6 years of marriage, Alberto had never offered such a smile to her. For Marina, he reserved only a cold, serious expression. Marina knew their marriage had not been born of love, but of a contract. And yet, ever since she met him in her teenage years, her heart had belonged to him, Alberto Alcantara, a name of weight in the country. Intelligent, attractive, powerful. Countless women dreamed of a romance with the heir to Alcantara Corporation. But he had married young. What most fascinated women was his reputation as a devoted husband. Since marrying his mysterious wife, he had never been involved in scandals. What woman wouldn't desire a man like that? But only Marina knew the truth. The marriage was an ornament, a facade, a carefully constructed public image. He needed a stable marriage. To project trust, in private, he barely looked at her. Marina had never deserved his affection, much less his love. Alberto's love belonged to only one woman, Laura, his first love. The woman in the photo, the one who had destroyed Marina. No matter how much Marina sacrificed, he didn't love her. A smile or a tear from Laura, and he would go back to her, no matter how deeply she had hurt him years ago. As she enlarged the image, Marina searched in vain for a flicker of guilt in his face. She had known their marriage would face challenges since the death of Antonio, Alberto's grandfather. But she had not expected the end to come so soon. Alberto could hardly wait to have his first love back, even if it tainted his reputation. Alone on her wedding anniversary, she received a message from an unknown number. The bitter, taunting tone left no doubt. It was Laura. "I think I've won. After your pathetic attempts to force Alberto to leave me, now that the old man is gone, no one will stand by your side. Wait and see, Marina. Your good days are over. Enjoy your last moment as Mrs. Alcantara, because soon that title will be mine." Clenching her teeth, Marina imagined Laura's arrogant expression. How could that woman twist the truth so shamelessly? She had never forced Alberto to break up with Laura. It was Laura who had abandoned him for money, failing Antonio's test, and now she still blamed her. How dare she? Marina still remembered Antonio's words on his deathbed. The old man had wanted her to take care of his grandson, to keep the marriage. She didn't know what Antonio had seen in her, but until his final breath, he believed she was the only one who could bring happiness to Alberto. It had been hard to say no to that kind old man, the only one who had ever treated her kindly in the Alcantara family. If not for him, who had given her a place to stay, Marina might not have survived until the day she was reunited with her own family. Back to reality, Marina sent a message to her husband, certain he would return home immediately. Half an hour later, the door to her room burst open. It was him, Alberto, his face angry, his eyes cold. He walked toward her and pushed her onto the bed, his hand tearing her nightgown. "Alberto!" she cried, trying to stop him. She hadn't called him to be with her. She had called him back to talk. If they were destined to fail Antonio, then at least the marriage should end decently. But the man above her didn't bother to answer. "Ah, Alberto!" she called, voice trembling, as she tried to push him away. He growled in displeasure and pinned her arms above her head. The room filled with the sound of skin against skin, Marina's gasps, the creaking of the bed, and as it all happened, her feelings collided. Moments ago she had been wounded, furious, resentful. Now, with his body pressing against hers, she could no longer feel anger or pain. Instead, she felt loved. It was foolish, but she wanted to believe, maybe, just maybe, Alberto hadn't come back because of the message, but because he wanted to make her feel loved and desired. And with that thought, she surrendered. Long pause. Exhausted, he rolled to the side. For a moment, the only thing Marina could hear was their breathing and the beating of their hearts. But his next words stabbed her heart like a knife. We no longer need to keep up this farce. Let's get divorced." "What?" Marina finally managed to ask after a long silence. She hoped it was a trick of her mind. "You heard me. Now that my grandfather is gone, I think it's time we got divorced." Alberto said it without hesitation. "And don't forget, you were the one who mentioned it first." Tears streamed down her face, and Marina could hardly breathe. Yes, she had mentioned divorce and her grandfather's will in that message. If they divorced, she would keep half of his property. But the property was never what she wanted. She had even planned to give it back if Alberto ever found someone worthy. She just couldn't stand by and watch Antonio's legacy be tarnished by someone like Laura. That was why she had wanted to talk. She had chosen her words to provoke him on purpose, prepared for his anger. But as soon as he returned, he had overpowered her, melted her with his strength, trapped her in the illusion that there was still hope for their marriage. "You want a divorce?" Her voice broke. "Then why did you make love to me just now?" Her voice was filled with sorrow. They had made love like a passionate couple a minute ago, and in the next, cruel words came from his lips. "It meant nothing to me. Besides, isn't that what you wanted? You enjoyed it. But I only did it to tell you the truth. Even if I've grown used to your body over the past 6 years, that doesn't mean I'm in love with you." His words cut like a blade. Marina's face turned pale. Her eyes glistened. Yes, their intimate life had been wonderful, and that was what had kept her in this marriage for so many years. Naively, she had assumed he felt something for her, or that, if his desire was so strong, there had to be love behind it. But she was wrong, terribly wrong. He had only wanted her to satisfy his needs. When Alberto's true love returned, she could only be discarded. "Come on, Marina. Don't play innocent. You know how our marriage happened. You saved my grandfather and used that to threaten him. That's why he forced me to marry you. That's the whole truth." "No, Alberto, that's not true." Marina shook her head desperately. "I never threatened your grandfather. I married you only because I love you. Enough. Stop bothering me. I'll send the divorce papers as soon as possible. Sign them. Quietly. Don't make a scene." Marina couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her eyes blinked rapidly, trying to hold back tears. The scene before Antonio's death flashed in her mind. The dying old man, placing Alberto's hand over hers, begging them to love each other and build a happy life. "Marina, my dear, I know you've suffered so much, but please, take good care of Alberto for me. I know only you can do that." His last words echoed, fueling her determination to try one last time. Yet, Alberto didn't even give her the chance. He threw a card at her face while fixing his tie. Without looking back, "Taking half of my property is too much. Here are 50 million, enough for several lifetimes. Take the money and sign the divorce papers. Or don't blame me for being harsh." And with that, he turned and left. That shattered any remaining hope. She sat on the bed, tears streaming down her face. How had it come to this? How could the love of her life become her greatest punishment? If not for Antonio's heart attack, her life would never have crossed Alberto's path. For that single chance, she had saved him. In gratitude, Antonio had wanted his grandson to marry her. She had never expected that the grandson would be Alberto, her obsession since adolescence. At that moment, she had believed she was destined to be his fiancé. But she hadn't known that Alberto already had his first love. To give up, he told her about Antonio's cancer, that his only wish was to see his grandson happy. Marina could no longer refuse. She had no idea how much Antonio had done to make Alberto fall for her. He had even threatened to leave Laura and her family homeless if Alberto didn't treat Marina properly. No one dared to doubt Antonio's word. Laura had disappeared from their lives, and Alberto had accepted the marriage. He had been a responsible husband, in Marina's eyes, until last month. He would usually come home on time and have dinner with her regularly. She still believed in their marriage, until she discovered Laura had returned, and Alberto spent most of his time with her. Long pause. The phone rang. It was her best friend. "Helena," Marina answered, and a worried voice came from the other end. "Marina, why is Alberto suddenly withdrawing his investment from my company?" Marina realized it immediately. It was a threat. If she refused to sign the papers, he would use Helena's company as leverage. Never in her life had she felt so humiliated. A fire burned within her. There was no longer any reason to stay in that marriage. She believed Antonio would understand her decision. She called Alberto. Before he could speak, she said firmly, "I agree to the divorce, and I don't want a single cent from you, disgusting man. Just Have the divorce papers ready right now." After speaking, she hung up. Without waiting for a reply, she wrote a message to reassure Helena. Even without Alberto, her friend's company would not be left without investment. Packing her things, she left the Alcantara mansion. It was raining. Tears rolled down her face, mingling with the rain. The sky mirrored the state of her heart. She stood there, motionless, letting the tears fall. She turned around and saw a familiar face, Miss Montenegro. It was Jose, the Montenegro's butler. Marina didn't answer. Instead, the man wrapped a coat around her shoulders. "The deadline is almost up. It's time for you to say goodbye to Mr. Alberto and return home to manage the family business. The master is calling for your return as the only and rightful—" How did Alberto call her again? A gold digger. If only he knew what family she came from. The Montenegro family owned businesses all over the world. Marina answered the phone. It was him, Pedro Montenegro. Her grandfather. "Grandfather. Good evening." "Good evening, Marina," he replied, his voice firm and commanding. "Have you finally stopped playing house?" "Yes," Marina answered firmly. "I'm going to divorce Alberto Alcantara and return home soon. But I need more time to settle something here first. I don't want to leave as a loser. I want to establish my name here before I return home." On the other end, the old man's silence felt heavy. "You know, I hate it when you disobey me." "I'm aware, grandfather. I apologize," she said respectfully. "But you're right. There are no cowards in our family. I'll give you 1 year to stay there as the branch manager," he declared decisively. "In return, you must increase profits by 30%. Within a year." "What, grandfather?" Marina's eyes widened. 30%. That's 3 billion. And are you incapable of that?" The old man challenged. "No, but let me be frank," she said tensely. "Failure will also have consequences." "It will," he replied coldly. "I have a close friend whose son is interested in you. Unlike that bastard, Gustavo is a good man, and he'll treat you well." Marina sighed, impatient. "That won't be necessary. I'll increase the company's profits, and I won't marry anyone." "Very well then. It's settled." The call ended, and silence filled the room. 1 year, 30% profit, or an arranged marriage. That was the deadline. And the pressure crushed her chest. For 6 long years, Marina had buried her identity and her talents to be entirely Alberto's wife. But all of that had turned out to be a childish, useless dream. Yes, it was time to wake up, and she was not generous enough to forgive. She knew that her new life began there. When Helena learned that Marina had decided to go through with the divorce, she could hardly wait to celebrate. "Come on, Marina," she said excitedly. "You have to celebrate your freedom." Marina smiled faintly. Being depressed over a jerk like Alberto wasn't her style. "All right," she replied, grabbing her purse. "Let's go to the club," insisted Helena, pulling her by the wrist. In front of the mirror, Marina paused for a moment. A tight black leather dress, short boots, a gold necklace that accentuated her neck, her wavy brown hair tied in a ponytail. She looked stunning, confident. Nothing remained of the submissive, faded woman who had been married to Alberto for 6 years. The looks she received upon entering the club confirmed it. "You're single now, Marina," Helena said, laughing. "We have to celebrate, especially since you're the one dumping that idiot." Marina laughed dryly. While Helena ordered the 3rd drink, she could only laugh at her friend's optimism, so determined to see her enjoy herself. And she did enjoy it. But the universe had other plans. While they danced, a tall, lean man in a suit entered the club. Beside him, a blonde who quickly drew attention. "Roberto, where do you want to sit?" asked Laura. "Anywhere's fine," Alberto replied. "How about over there?" She pointed toward a corner beyond the dance floor. Alberto followed the gesture. But something, or rather someone, caught his eye. In the middle of the dance floor, a familiar figure, a provocative black dress, hips swaying to the rhythm of the music. She was laughing. Marina, laughing at the attention of a man in his 20s, though she looked different, seductive, confident, free. Alberto recognized her instantly, his wife, and the longer he watched her, the angrier he became. "Go ahead," he said to Laura without looking at her. "I'll catch up with you." And without waiting, he moved across the room. "What the hell do you think you're doing here? Interacting publicly with another man, while you're still married to me?" His voice was cold and cutting. "Aren't you ashamed?" Marina stared at him, surprised, and then laughed with contempt. "Me? Not ashamed?" Her voice dripped with irony. You're hilarious, Alberto. The last time I checked, you were the one who wanted the divorce, and I can't help but point out that, just a few days ago, you were also interacting, without any shame, with another woman, my dear husband, she mocked, turning to walk away. But then, Laura appeared. Alberto, there you are. Her sweet voice mixed with the music. However, Laura's attention was soon captured by Marina. Her eyes widened. Marina, what are you doing here? And how is that any of your business? Marina retorted firmly. Turning back to Alberto, Laura practically clung to him, pretending kindness. Alberto, please, don't be angry with Marina. She's just stunned and confused. It's normal, seeing as once you divorce her, she won't have anyone left to fund her lifestyle. An icy silence filled the air. Marina raised an eyebrow and let out a sarcastic laugh. Fund my lifestyle? She said with a laugh. That's new, Laura, but she's not wrong, is she? Alberto retorted without thinking. Marina's eyebrows furrowed. Whenever Laura was around, he had no brain to think. Mind your own business, Laura. And your little comedy, Marina replied firmly. Worry more about your mistress, and not about the person you're divorcing. She turned to leave. But Alberto grabbed her hand again. You're doing this to challenge me, I get it. You're doing this just because I refuse to give you a penny? He moved closer, threatening. Well, 50 million. I'll pay you that as compensation for the divorce, as long as you apologize to me and to Laura. Right now. Marina stared at him, serious, and smiled faintly. She lifted her chin and looked directly into his eyes. I already asked for the divorce, Alberto. Trust me. Your 50 million mean nothing to me. I will never bow down to you and to your… Long pause, maximum tension. Alberto couldn't believe it. Marina, the woman who claimed to love him, always clinging to him, had filed for divorce before he even had the chance. That fact disturbed him. It was supposed to be him who asked for the divorce, not the other way around. You're really testing my patience, Marina, he said, his voice low but filled with contained rage. Don't try to act important, because at the end of the day, you know what I'm capable of. But Marina wasn't intimidated. But you, Alberto, don't know what I'm capable of, she replied firmly. What will you do? Destroy me? Ruin my reputation? Destroy Helena's business? She took a step forward, her gaze burning with challenge. I dare you, Alberto. Try to lay a finger on the people I love, and you'll see how this ends. Marina's threats did little to shake Alberto. He had dealt with bigger wolves, but something in the way she looked at him shook him. He was used to seeing her submissive, fragile, begging, but now, there in front of him, was a strong woman, unbreakable. Still, he maintained his icy stare. He opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted. Helena appeared coming from the crowd. What are they doing here? She said, confused and angry. Marina took a deep breath. I don't care, and I don't want to know. Let's go, Helena. I can't stand the air, polluted by the smell of idiots. Without saying another word, Marina grabbed her friend's hand and walked away. Alberto stood there, furious, in silence. Who did Marina think she was to treat him like that? Each of her steps echoed in his mind like a provocation. His blood boiled, without hesitation. He grabbed the phone. Yes, sir? The assistant answered. Have you gathered the necessary documents to secure the purchase of Zara Cosmetics? Alberto asked, his voice tense. I'm sorry, sir, but the sale has already been made. Alberto narrowed his eyes. Made? To whom? We don't know. It was made to someone mysterious. Damn it, he growled. Try to find out about the business group that now holds the rights to Zara Cosmetics. Yes, sir, immediately. When he hung up, Alberto's face darkened. Rage grew inside him. Like an uncontrollable fire, he looked around and saw a familiar shine. The wavy brown hair, the black dress, Marina's back. Getting into a black Mercedes. Beside her, an older man in a flawless suit. The man handed Marina a premium black card. Alberto furrowed his brow. He was more than sure that Laura's words were true. No wonder Marina had rejected 50 million. She had gotten a boat-old man. The poison of doubt ran through his veins. She dares, he murmured through his teeth. She's still using the title of my wife and dares to betray me like this. Rage blinded him. He took a step forward, but the car drove off before he could reach her. Well, he said through gritted teeth with a dark smile, if she thinks she'll get away with it, she's completely wrong. For the second time that night, he grabbed the phone. Mr. Alcantara. The man on the other end of the line answered. I want a full report on Marina Lima. Everything. Her current lifestyle. Where she's been, who she's been in contact with, and what she's been doing. You have 24 hours to bring me that report, or you can say goodbye to your life here. Yes, sir. Alberto ended the call, his eyes fixed on the window, his breath heavy. His wife might think she would escape unscathed, but soon she would regret it. Several days had passed since Marina had sent the divorce papers, but there had still been no response. Marina called her lawyer. Has Alberto signed yet? She asked. I'm sorry, madam. Not yet, but we're encountering resistance. The judge suggests that you contact Mr. Alberto first. Marina laughed, out of anger. What was Alberto doing now? He was the one who had first asked for the divorce, and now he was putting up obstacles. What's wrong with him? She muttered. She took a deep breath, trying to calm down. If he wanted to play, she could play too. I understand. I'll find Alberto, she said firmly, grabbing her purse and heading toward his company. The facade of Alcantara Corporation loomed before her. Majestic, cold, imposing, each step Marina took echoed, reminding her of 6 years of submission. But today, she wasn't coming as a wife. She was coming as an equal. She walked in with her head held high. The sound of her heels resonated through the lobby. Eyes turned, some with astonishment, others with mockery. The secretaries whispered as she passed, "Look, it's Mrs. Alcantara." But wasn't she supposed to be divorcing? I heard he traded her in for a blonde. Marina ignored them. She marched straight to the reception desk. "Good morning," she said calmly. "I need to speak with Mr. Alberto Alcantara." The receptionist, a young woman named Beatrice, looked her up and down. Her gaze was full of disdain. "I'm sorry, madam, but Mr. Alcantara is in a meeting, and he doesn't take visitors without an appointment." Marina kept smiling. "Tell him that his wife is here." Beatrice raised an eyebrow. "Ah, so it's Mrs. Alcantara," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What a surprise." "Yes, but not for much longer," Marina replied curtly. Beatrice hesitated. "I can check with him." "Please, wait a moment." She turned, picked up the phone, and called upstairs. "Mr. Alcantara, your wife wants to see you." There was a pause. Beatrice swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. Understood." She hung up and looked at Marina with a forced smile. "Mr. Alcantara asked me to escort you to the meeting room." Marina simply nodded. The elevator ascended, and with each floor that passed, her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from determination. The doors opened, and before she took a step, a figure appeared in the hallway. Jessica, Alberto's personal secretary, and a silent accomplice to Laura. "Well, if it isn't Mrs. Alcantara," she said with a venomous smile. "Did you come to beg the boss to change his mind, or just visit the office?" For the last time, Marina stared at her. Her gaze was firm. "I didn't come to beg, Jessica. I came to close a chapter." "Close?" Jessica laughed mockingly. "You still think you have the power to do that?" Marina stepped forward, her tone calm, but cutting. "I used to be afraid of you, Jessica. Now, I only pity you." The secretary's smile faded. "Excuse me," Marina said, brushing past her. Jessica stood still, stunned, swallowing her pride. The meeting room door opened. Alberto was standing looking out the window, his hands in his pockets, his expression cold. For a moment, Marina remained silent. She observed that man, the one she had once loved so much, and now she could barely recognize him. "Came to beg me to sign?" His voice echoed, firm. "No," she replied. "I came to claim what you promised." He turned. His cold eyes met hers. "I promised many things, Marina. Which one are you talking about?" "You said you'd let me go free." "Ah," he smirked. "But I changed my mind." "What?" Her voice sounded tense. "I'm not in a hurry anymore. I've discovered it's more fun this way." She stared at him, incredulous. "You're threatening me." "No, dear. I'm giving you the opportunity to prove you're worthy." "Worthy of what, Alberto?" she asked, containing her anger. "To continue using the Alcantara surname." Her laugh echoed through the room. "You're pathetic," she said firmly. "You want to keep me for pride, not for love. And you think you can get away with it?" He retorted, moving closer. "I can, and I will." She stared at him with a calmness that unsettled him. "You know what's funniest, Alberto?" she said with a cold smile. "While you play at humiliating me, I'm building something much bigger. Something you can't even imagine." "Oh, really?" he mocked. "And what could be so grand?" She approached him, looked him in the eyes. The fall of a man begins when he underestimates a woman. Silence. He stared at her, speechless. Marina turned to leave. "You'll regret it." "Marina," he said through his teeth. "Not as much as you will." She replied without looking back, and she left, leaving only the sound of her steps. Echoing down the hall, the wind blew strongly. As Marina left the Alcantara Corporation building, she inhaled deeply. Like someone leaving the past behind, the cold air hit her face, reminding her that she was alive, strong, reborn. Hours later, in the Montenegro Group branch office, Marina walked in, determined. The employees stood up, surprised. It was the first time they had seen the young president in person. "Miss Montenegro," one of them said, surprised. "Welcome back," she nodded, not losing her composure. "Thank you. From today on, I want daily reports on operations, full audits of all branches. I want to know every penny that comes in and goes out." "Yes, madam," they replied in unison. Marina surveyed the environment. It was time to prove her worth, not just as a woman or a betrayed wife, but as a leader, as a Montenegro. By the end of the day, sitting in her new office, she looked out the window at the horizon. The city sparkled, full of life and promises. But amid that beauty, one name echoed in her mind: Alberto Alcantara, the man who had destroyed her faith, who had humiliated her and underestimated her. "You'll see, Alberto," she whispered firmly. "The game has only just begun." Long pause. Days later, an important meeting was about to start. Marina stood up, her look cold and professional. Across the table, men in suits discussed contracts. Among them, a familiar name, Carlos Varela, former partner of Alcantara Corporation. "Miss Montenegro," he said, bowing respectfully. "It's an honor to finally meet you. Your grandfather spoke highly of you." Marina smiled faintly. "I hope he said good things. More than good. He believed you would be the strongest heir we've ever had." "Then I'd better not disappoint him," she said firmly. "We have a project in progress that I believe may interest you," Carlos continued. "We're about to launch a new line of cosmetics, and we need a solid partner. Zara Cosmetics was recently acquired by a mysterious group. But if Montenegro Group enters this market, we can take down Alcantara Corporation in a few months." Marina crossed her legs, thoughtful. "Zara Cosmetics," she murmured. "Interesting. I know that company," Carlos smiled. "So, what do you think?" She looked at him. "I think it's exactly the type of opportunity I've been waiting for." Meanwhile, at the Alcantara Corporation building, Alberto was receiving the report he had requested. His face darkened with each line he read. "She's the new president of the Montenegro Group branch?" he asked, incredulous. "Yes, sir," the assistant replied cautiously. "And there are rumors she's expanding the business rapidly. In fact, there's a proposal from her regarding Zara Cosmetics." The sound of a glass shattering against the table echoed throughout the room. "Damn it!" Alberto shouted, furious. "So it's her, sir. Should I investigate further?" "No, not yet." Alberto breathed deeply. "I want to see how far she'll go. But if she dares to touch any company connected to my name, I won't hesitate to crush her." His gaze was cold, cruel, but for the first time, there was something different in it. Fear. As the sun set, two opposing forces prepared for an inevitable clash. On one side, the Alcantara Empire. On the other, the new strength of the Montenegro Group. And at the center of it all, a woman who had lost everything, but now had everything to gain. Marina Montenegro, the name that would soon echo throughout the city. The days that followed were filled with relentless tension. Marina's presence in the business world became a force to be reckoned with. Every decision she made, every move she took, sent ripples through the Montenegro Group and the industry at large. Meanwhile, Alberto's world seemed to be crumbling around him. Alcantara Corporation was under attack, not only from within but from Marina herself. Her strategic moves were cutting through their profits, while his attention was split between Laura and the growing threat of Marina's rise. And yet, as much as he tried to ignore her, the memory of Marina, the woman he had married, clung to him. One afternoon, as the tension at Alcantara Corporation reached its peak, Alberto found himself pacing in his office, thinking of the deals he had tried to salvage. His phone rang, breaking his thoughts. "Mr. Alcantara, we've received an offer to purchase Zara Cosmetics." "It's from the Montenegro Group." He clenched his fists. The Montenegro Group was buying up his empire piece by piece. And now it was threatening to take over his legacy, his business, the very foundation he had built. He knew he couldn't let that happen. But he also knew that Marina was no longer just the wife he had discarded. She was a formidable opponent, a woman who had grown stronger and more determined with every passing day. In the heart of Montenegro Group, Marina sat in her new office, overlooking the city. Her reflection in the glass was no longer that of a fragile woman clinging to a broken marriage. It was the face of a leader, Strong, resolute, ready to take on anything that came her way. Her phone buzzed. It was an email from her lawyer. The final documents for the acquisition of Zara Cosmetics are ready to be signed. She smiled. She had been patient. She had waited for this moment. Zara Cosmetics was the key to breaking Alcantara's monopoly on the beauty industry. It was a victory not just for Montenegro Group, but for her, for everything she had sacrificed. But as she signed the papers, her mind lingered on the man who had once been her husband. Alberto. He had been a powerful force in her life, but now, he was nothing more than a shadow in the distance. That evening, Alberto couldn't take it anymore. He called Marina. The phone rang a few times before she picked up. "Marina," he said, his voice hoarse. "I need to talk to you." She didn't say anything at first. Her silence was heavy, waiting for him to continue. "I've been thinking," he started, his voice shaky, "about everything. About the divorce, about what's been happening. I want to make things right, Marina." Her heart raced, but her expression remained calm. She was done with his games. She was done with his empty promises. "Alberto, you had your chance," she replied coldly. "I'm no longer the woman who will tolerate your lies and manipulation. I've moved on, and so should you." There was a pause. She could almost hear the frustration in his voice as he struggled to find the words. "You can't just erase everything, Marina. You can't just walk away and pretend it didn't matter." "It did matter, Alberto," she said, her voice unwavering. "But I'm not going to be your second choice anymore. I'm not going to be a footnote in your life. I'm writing my own story now, and I'm no longer asking for your approval." The line went quiet. Alberto was speechless, and Marina knew it was over. The next day, Marina stood in front of a large boardroom full of Montenegro Group executives. She had one goal in mind: to expand, to prove that she was a force to be reckoned with. "Today, we make history," she said confidently. "Today we will move forward with the acquisition of Zara Cosmetics, and we will crush the Alcantara Corporation." Her words echoed through the room, and her team erupted in applause. They believed in her. They knew she was the one who would lead them to success. And Marina knew that this victory was only the beginning. Back at Alcantara Corporation, Alberto stood before his team. He could feel the pressure closing in around him, the weight of everything that was slipping away. "We need to fight back," he said, his voice low and intense. "I won't let Marina take everything from us." But deep down, he knew the truth. The battle was lost. Marina had already won. As the days went by, the war between them escalated. But Marina no longer cared. She had reclaimed her life. She had reclaimed her power, and with each victory she left Alberto behind. In the shadows of his crumbling empire, the final confrontation would come soon. But it was clear, Marina had already won. Her name would echo in the halls of power, not as a woman who had been betrayed, but as a woman who had taken control of her own destiny. The city skyline shimmered as the night fell. But Marina sat in her office, the weight of the decisions she'd made settling upon her shoulders. She had done it. She had outmaneuvered Alberto, taken control of her life and the Montenegro Group. But now, the time for reckoning had come. Her phone rang, breaking the silence in the room. It was him, Marina. Alberto's voice came through the line, raw and strained. "I know I've made mistakes, but I can't let you take everything. I won't let you win this." She closed her eyes for a moment. "The arrogance, the audacity. You lost a long time ago, Alberto," she said quietly, her voice unwavering. "This isn't about winning. It's about moving forward. And you're too far behind." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. She could hear him breathe, as if trying to find the right words. But she knew they had no power left. "You took everything from me," his voice cracked. "And now, you're going to destroy everything I've built. You'll regret this." Marina took a deep breath. She had heard it all before. The threats, the promises. But she had already made her peace with the future. "No, Alberto," she said with finality. "You will destroy yourself. I've already left you behind. I'm not here to tear you down. I'm here to rise." With that, she hung up the phone, closing the chapter on her past with Alberto. The next day, the news broke. Zara Cosmetics was officially part of the Montenegro Group, and the final blow to the Alcantara Corporation had been struck. Marina stood before the press, her face calm and composed as she made her announcement. "Today marks a new era for Montenegro Group. With the acquisition of Zara Cosmetics, we will continue to push forward, expand, and lead the market. As for Alcantara Corporation, well, sometimes you have to let go of the past in order to embrace the future." The reporters erupted in questions, but Marina stood tall, her resolve unshaken. She had done what needed to be done. and nothing would stand in her way now. Meanwhile, in the cold, darkened halls of Alcantara Corporation, Alberto watched the news, his world shattering around him. The last remnants of his empire were slipping away. The business that had once defined him was now crumbling, and Marina, the woman he had tried to control, had taken everything from him. He was no longer a powerful man. He was just a shell of what he had once been. In a moment of raw realization, Alberto sat at his desk, staring at the empty space before him. The walls of his office felt closer than ever, the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him. He reached for his phone, but his hand froze before dialing. He knew he had lost, but what did he have left to live for? Marina, on the other hand, stood at the top of her company, looking down on the city she had conquered. Everything was in place. Everything was going according to plan. Her phone buzzed again. It was Helena. "Marina, you did it!" Helena's voice came through the line, full of excitement. "Zara Cosmetics is yours. This is huge. You've completely outdone yourself." Marina smiled, but it wasn't a smile of victory. It was the smile of someone who had finally found peace. "We did it, Helena. I couldn't have done it without you." "I'm proud of you, Marina," Helena said. "You took control. You took everything back." Marina looked out over the horizon. The city was hers now, but her thoughts lingered on something else. Someone else. Alberto had once been her everything, but now he was nothing. She had built her empire, and now she would watch as it flourished. But she knew that the real victory wasn't in business. The real victory was in reclaiming herself, in finding the strength to walk away, in becoming the woman she was always meant to be. Days later, Alberto was seen leaving the Alcantara Corporation building, his face gaunt and hollow. The end had come for him, but he would carry the weight of his choices for the rest of his life. As Marina stood in her office, she received a final call from him. "Marina," Alberto said, his voice weak. "I never thought you'd go this far. I never thought you'd beat me." She closed her eyes, a small sad smile playing on her lips. It wasn't about beating him. It was about surviving him. "Goodbye, Alberto," she said softly. "I hope you find what you're looking for. But it's over." And with that, she ended the call. She had fought, she had won, and now she was free. Marina Montenegro was no longer just a woman who had been betrayed by love. She was a woman who had rebuilt herself. She was a force to be reckoned with, and her name would echo throughout the business world, not as the woman who had been abandoned, but as the woman who had taken control of her own destiny.